This is a 1978 Ford Transit, the Mk2. It's a camper van. It's got beds, little hammocks, it's got a fridge, it's got a hob, gas cooker, even a little wardrobe. But not all is quite as it seems. Welcome to Angry George. We've got problems. Hello, Angry George is the name of the van. My name's Matt, and I know what you're thinking. What have you done, Matt? What have you done? And I have to admit, I open the garage door and I think, crikey, Matt, what have you done? But there is an element of, I was left unsupervised. It's not my fault. An element of it's not quite as it appears. There's no hiding the fact that it's a hoofing great supercharger on a V6. But I have made steps, I think, towards making it a usable package. And I'm in two minds, or have been in two minds, about whether I should post anything on social media. I'm a social media hermit. I came off FaceAche years ago, and I just sort of get on with things on my own. Don't listen to naysayers. If I want to do something, I'll do it. And I've picked a package here that's a bit of an underdog. V6s aren't that popular. Go V8 or turbo, 4-cylinder. But I like the underdog, so I've gone for V6. And this is just going to be an overview. I'll give you a taste of things to come. But this, I think, is going to generate a lot of hate. And I don't mean it to. I've not deliberately created this van to upset people. Ultimately, there are a few aims in building this van. I've built it for me, first and foremost. Not to sell. I'm not worried about value. But you have to remember that this was a basket case restoration. No one would have touched this van restoration-wise. It was a lost cause. So I've sort of estimated it's taken me 8 years to get to this point so far. I think it's going to be a 1,500-hour restoration. I'm doing it in my part-time, so I'm an amateur builder. I like bringing machines back to life, whatever they are. Cars, vehicles, whatever. I like bringing them back to life. I like a challenge, and this is certainly a challenge. To give you an idea of what's to come in the next episodes, it's going to be a slow-paced thing. I'm not Matt Armstrong. I don't have his energy. I don't have his time. You're going to have sporadic episode updates, and it's going to be a trip. Now, I've set myself a challenge, and I have to admit too, if you look at supercharged projects across the internet, they've got a limited chance of success. And if I'm totally honest, this is a limited chance of success. But I'm enjoying it. The restoration and the modifications are almost two separate things. So the restoration is going to be a success. There's no worries about that. This is not my first rodeo as far as restoring vehicles are concerned. Modifications, a supercharger package, maybe it won't work. If not, I'll take it all out, sell it off in bits and put something mundane and boring. So as well as the hate I think this will generate, not intentionally, but I'll definitely get people think, oh, why didn't you put a real Cosy in it, the YB, or why didn't you put a V8 in it? Yeah, I understand that. Each to their own. It's also going to cause a bit of confusion, I think, this van. So let me just state the aims of the van straight away. I want it to be usable, so I built it for me, my family, hopefully to go around the UK, go camping. I want to build something cool and different. This is an engine that's not really that well liked, but I don't think it's as bad as people say. Essentially, as far as performance is concerned, I'm not building it for mega power. It's going to be a moderately powerful cruiser. I think there's some modern transits which you can chip. I don't think Ford themselves produce anything out of the box that will be this powerful. But there's certainly new vans that you can chip that would have the same torque or more power. The other thing, it's a challenge I set myself. I wanted to use mainly Ford parts. So when I started 8 years ago, I had this theory. I want to build a van that I could go around Europe and, if I needed to, drive into a Ford dealership for service parts. I think now, 8 years on, with the dawn of electric vehicles, they just look at me like I crawled out of cheese with this thing. So that's one of the criteria. That's not really that important anymore. I didn't want to cut or hack up that firewall, although I'll have to repair it. V8s generally, you'll need to box out. If you don't know, you'll have to box out and create room. I didn't want to do that. And the final sort of base condition, which goes back to it being usable, I wanted to achieve 18 miles per gallon or more and exceed 230 horsepower. I had a side bet with my friend who's got a Honda Civic Type R, which was producing 230 horsepower. And at the time, this was years ago, I said, well, I bet I can build a camper van that's got more than that. So I think this, I know you're thinking how much horsepower, it's going to be a low boost system. I'm building it to run about 5 psi, which if you're into turbos, you'll realise that's nothing. That's just lightly breathing on it. But I think ultimately the question you're probably asking is how much power. It'll be about 260 horsepower, 250 horsepower, something like that. But I'm not really too interested in the top end power. I'm more interested in that sort of low and mid range torque. That'll make it good fun around country roads. If I want to power up onto a slip road, onto the motorway, obviously up to legal speed limit, I don't think this will give me any problems. So let me give you a walkthrough, talk through. Boom! I'm learning all the tricks, the magic of camera work, just like that. Supercharger's gone. You'll have to forgive my amateurish editing. This is all totally new to me. So first thing I wanted to mention was don't get het up on that 18 miles per gallon. I don't want you to think that I've built a supercharged motor for efficiency. This is not an efficient engine. This is, as far as forced induction is concerned, horrifically inefficient, eye-wateringly inefficient. I've not put them together with the aims of getting the top miles per gallon. That's not the case. 18 miles per gallon is simply a baseline, I think. Below that, it really starts hurting if you want to start using the vehicle. But for limited mileage, 2,000 miles a year, I think 18 miles per gallon is a reasonable baseline. Anyway, the engine, some of you might recognize it already. The clue, if I can zoom in, is those letters there. It's only fitted to one car. So this is a Ford Cosworth 24 valve fitted to the Ford Granada Scorpio, the top of the range in the 90s. Only ever fitted with an automatic gearbox, a standard 195 horsepower. A little bit of trivia, when it was produced, it was the torquiest sub 3 litre engine in the world, production wise anyway, production engine in the world. And the rumour has it that Cosworth, when they produced the engine, originally it was exceeding 200 brake horsepower by a significant degree, so much so that Ford were a bit worried about the longevity of their gearbox, so they tasked the engineers at Cosworth to turn it down a bit. So it's a detuned engine. They can, do 150,000 miles. One weakness I'll say now is the timing chains. They've got long timing chains here with timing guides, just like many modern engines, and they can get brittle, and well, they will eventually get brittle. And they do fail, and that they're expensive when they do. So this one, I've opened it up marginally, taken the sump off. It was sold to me as a good running engine, but it was a spare, and it had allegedly 75,000 miles on the clock when it was taken out of the car. And I took the sump off, had a look at the insides, the bearings. They look pretty decent to me. Took the cam covers off, all looked good. So I put it back together with gaskets and new oil pump. and new water pump. So that's the engine. An unknown, basically. I've put it in, I want to get it running, essentially. Then I can really see what it's like. But I'm at the moment just getting all the plumbing together. This valley of vexation, as I call it, it's got coolant pipes going along it, and various things which can cause problems. By the way, this isn't an auto. I've got a 5-speed there, going back to a Mustang axle with an LSD. So drivetrain, brakes, everything will be uprated to cope. Which brings me to this. Already some of you realising that's a Roots, old school Roots type supercharger. This is specifically made by a company called Wade, and it's a Wade RO34, so called the 34 because it displaces every revolution 3.4 litres of air, and I just think they're beautiful. There's something about them. I've got one of these on my desk at work, an RO20, a smaller version, and colleagues just use it as a fidget spinner. Come over, it's just relaxing, just turning it. I really enjoy it. So anyway, it was incomplete, £180. eBay is a dangerous place, isn't it? So I bought it and I thought, yeah, I can make that work. I've basically made this. The green tape is covering up a Perspex cover. So it's going to be essentially a big sight glass, and you'll be able to see the internals whirring away through that, hopefully. This are welded together. The shaft, I didn't trust my welding to be absolutely straight, because part of supercharging systems is you've got to get the pulleys as aligned as possible. So shaft itself, I've got professionally machined. So the housing, if you like, is built around the shaft, which I know to be straight. And you hopefully can see here, it's got the keys there to lock the pulley in place. The pulley system itself, I've done a low profile system. By that I mean it's not very deep. Now you might be used to seeing superchargers with belts about 3 inches thick, especially the American V8s. I've done the calculations on stress and belt strength, and it doesn't have to be that strong. So even this is a 20mm belt. Is more than twice as strong as it needs to be. And I've done that so I can fit the cooling system in the front. And obviously you've seen already, on top of that, we've got what appear to be carburetors. And I'll save the explanation on them for another day. But there we go. Cosworth V6, Wade supercharger, some carburetors that aren't quite what they appear to be, and an Angry George. So there you go. I apologise, I've been talking for quite a long time, but I've got so much to convey. It's a 1978 campervan with a Cosworth V6 and a very large supercharger. I've said before, I might not succeed because I've got, let's face it, I've got a host of components, unwanted, second-hand components of dubious provenance that I brought together with handmade parts, which I've made in this small workshop. I'm going to give it my best shot, and I hope you will enjoy my work. I have mentioned already the aims of the van. What I haven't mentioned, the aims of the channel. So one of the things I get at work and from friends as well, friends, colleagues, asking me, how's Angry George doing? Have you done anything? And I've realised there is an enthusiasm for projects like this. Maybe it's just my friends being polite, but I thought I'd create a video channel and record my progress. I'm essentially bringing strangers with this episode up to speed with what I'm doing and the aims. But I thought from now on, I'll give you a look into my progress, trials and tribulations. And, you know, I'm going to include technical information, some historical information about various beautiful companies who've produced some of these components originally. And whether you're a VW fan or a Bedford fan, and you've got a van or car, classic cars, it doesn't matter. You know, I'll hope you'll get something from it. So, middle-aged trials and tribulations. Until next time, bye-bye.
So